Hello, luxury real estate agents. Today we're going to talk about how we can make comparables more comparable to our subject. Because the one thing you hear all the time when you go to a listing appointment, of course, is that that comp is not like mine. We know that good comps are hard to find. Then when we do find them, the seller says, those comps aren't like mine. That location is not as good. The house isn't as big. It's not the same quality as mine. They never like the comps we use. They're never good enough to compare to their houses. So how do we overcome this objection, this perception among our sellers? Well, the way to do that, in my opinion, is to make adjustments to the comps to allow for these differences. And the way we do adjustments is that if we have the subject property here on the left-hand side and comparable one is superior in some aspect, like it's larger square footage, then we adjust comparable number one downward. So if it's got 1,000 more square feet, we figure what the 1,000 square feet are worth in the marketplace. We make a subtraction to comparable number one to make it more like the home we're evaluating. More often, however, the seller is going to think that the comps are inferior to their house. So in those cases, we lift the comps up. So if the recent sale that we're going to use for a comp is smaller than our house by 1,000 square feet, we'll figure the value of that 1,000 square feet and add it to the sales price of that comp to make it more like our subject property. This helps take the air out of that balloon that the seller argues with us about the comps aren't as good as their house. Now, you can summarize all this work on a Word document or a spreadsheet, but I always like to do the adjustments as dollars, as percentages versus dollars. I find it very hard to say, well, that location is worth $1 million more than this location, or this view is worth $500,000 more than that view. So I always use percentages because for some reason, it's just easier to argue. So I'll say something like that location is 20% inferior or 20% superior, or that view is a 10% better view. It just seems to be easier to convey to most sellers. Then I put everything together on this is the sales grid I use, and I'll back out of here and show you a live version of the grid that we can make some changes on and do some calculations on. So basically what I did was here's the property we're doing a CMA on 123 Sample Street, and in this case it's Cape Cod. It's got almost 3/4 of an acre. It's got a 4,500 square foot house. It was built in 1920, but has been renovated over the years. It has an effective age of 2007. It's, Cape Cod. Everything, you can see everything on the spreadsheet right down the line. This, by the way, is the same spreadsheet that's in my book. So if you have Selling Luxury Homes, you can look at the illustration in there. This is the exact same one. So basically what I did was I took these comparable sales, and for instance, we're valuing this property in August 1 of 2009, and the first sale took place in November of 2008, and the market had dropped 5%, so I made a 5% minus adjustment. Again, the sale number one had 2.23 acres. The subject had 3/4 of an acre. I made a 15% minus adjustment, or $900,000. On my spreadsheets, anytime you write anything in the white boxes, you only write in the white boxes. They auto-calculate in the blue box. So all this is done automatically, then it totals up. And you can see each time we make an adjustment, for instance, if I said, well, maybe it's minus 10% rather than minus 15%, now it's 600, and now the adjusted sales price of the first comp is 6,793,200. So I do this to all three of my best comparable sales, and now we get three numbers here that make these sales more like the subject property. By doing this, we take the wind out of the sails of the seller who says those comps aren't like mine. That's the whole purpose of this exercise. So again, if the comp is superior, you make a subtraction. If it's inferior, you make a plus. And the more pluses on your comps, the better, because sellers always think the comps are inferior to theirs. So anyway, let's go back to the PowerPoint here real quick, and we will continue on our way. So just to summarize, you want to make the comparable sales more like those of the property you're evaluating. And again, you can see the spreadsheet in my book, Selling Luxury Homes, and the book includes live versions of the spreadsheet that you can use for your own business, and you also get a 20-minute consulting call with me. This is what the certificate looks like. So until next week, make it a great week. Send me emails with your questions, and if you have any questions, just email me at jack@jackcotton.com or go to my website and fill out the question form, and we'll be happy to answer those questions or concerns. Until next week, make it a great week.